Hello, everyone. Hello, babe. Thanks for being here. New fish. Good to see you. Hey, Sophia. I did. I didn't do it. It's nothing personal about the wrenches. I don't know if, I don't think you were here for that stream, but something really strange happened, a few streams ago. And, there, for whatever reason, my chat was saying that I was muting people and timing them out in my own stream, and I wasn't. So the only way that I could get it to stop was removing everybody's wrenches. So I'm slowly giving back wrenches over time, but I had to do that just to rule everybody out. I don't know if it was a glitch or whatever, but nothing personal, Sophia. I think you're a great moderator, and I really appreciate it. So I just wanted to let you know that. Hey, Beth. I am going to do what's heart? Okay, can I start again? I'm gonna do part two, and go over some of my important videos, on the Watts case today. I think all my videos that I put out are important, but we're obviously not going to go through all of them. I can't do the American Horror Story ones. I'll get immediately demonetized. It's not, my channel's not, it's monetized, but it's not because I don't have the advertisements up. But then again, I just don't want to risk getting a strike for copyright. I've only got copyright claims for my American Horror Story videos, but I don't know. We'll see. I think the predictive programming and the American Horror Story connection to it is very important. So maybe I will go over those. I'll just have to wait and see. So before I do get started, I usually wait for some other people to get in here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into it, not waste any time. People can watch the replay if they missed the beginning of it. I don't know why my chat's not working. Is my chat working? I don't know if it is or not. We'll see. Hopefully you guys don't have to stare at a blank screen for too much longer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to talk about is something that just came out that I'm sure most of you are aware of in the true crime community. New video footage of that everybody's been trying to get their hands on. Hey, Hard Eyes, good to see you. Everyone's been trying to get their hands on this footage of Nicole Kessinger, the interview with Nicole Kessinger and CBI, and the one with her father. No one's been able to get their hands on it. And, FOIA requests and CORA requests being sent out, with no avail. So, the chat's not working, is it? Crap. That's okay. I'm going to be playing videos anyway. So, but it is working. Oh, okay. The chat comments must just not stay up. I can't talk today. I'm going to have to slow down. Hey, MJ. So no one's been able to get their hands on this video, and all of a sudden it's posted online by none other than, drumroll, Frankie Jr., the brother of Shanann Watts. If you've been following my channel for quite some time, you will know my opinions on the Ruseks as well as the Watts. But mostly the Ruseks, due to their behavior in the true crime community and on social media, they've been contradicting themselves over and over and over again. They tell people that they're not allowed to talk about a highly publicized case, and that they're going to bring their lawyers into it, and they're going to sue all these true crime content creators that are talking about the case and breaking Shanann's personality down and whatnot. Unfortunately, when it comes to a high profile, very publicized case, there's something called free speech, and we're allowed to talk about these cases. And when you leave your daughter's Facebook account open for the entire world to see, after everything that happened, and not expect people to scrutinize your daughter or your granddaughters or whatever, or scrutinize the case or talk about the case, that's your own fault. Don't leave your daughter's Facebook account open for the whole world to see, and that won't happen. Or it won't happen as much, at least. So that's on you, Ruseks. Also, don't go on Dr. Phil and publicize the case even more. Don't team up with Netflix. Don't show your face on social media all the time. Start channels. Say that you're going to stay away from the true crime community because, like, oh, we're being doxxed and we're being harassed and we're being sent death threats. There's no evidence to prove that. I haven't seen any, anything to even back up what they're saying. And it's like, well, if all of this is true, and you're being harassed, hey Lou, if you're being harassed and whatnot, then why would you even stay anywhere near social media? And not only that, but the true crime community of all places, where that's all people do is talk about the deaths of people in these cases. So why in the world would you even insert yourselves into the true crime community? It makes no sense. Unless you have a motive behind it, unless you're trying to accomplish something, unless you're trying to cause chaos, get people to start talking about the case again, get people divided. No, we're pro Watts. No, we're pro Rusek. They're very, they contradict themselves many times, and they're very hypocritical. I don't care, honestly, if you're a victim. Being a victim does not make you, and the chat's still not working, but that's okay. Being a victim does not make you a saint. It doesn't make you a good person necessarily. It doesn't mean that you tell the truth or you don't lie. It just simply, unfortunately, makes you a victim. So regardless if this case is real or not, regardless if they actually are real victims to a crime or from a family member's perspective, you're not allowed to contradict yourself and be hypocrites and not expect to be called out on it. Now a lot of people won't because they play the victim card. They're victims. They can do what they want. No, you can't. You cannot contradict yourself. You can't make stuff up. You can't act like you're better than everybody just because because they claim to be victims. Sorry. It doesn't work that way. So I'm going to show you, Sophia. So, that video, as I mentioned a little bit ago, that no one's been able to get their hands on, Frankie Jr. decided that he wanted to post it for the whole world to see. Okay? Again, many content creators have been trying to get this video footage of the interview of Nicole Kessinger with CBI and her dad, but nobody's been able to do it. And what are the odds that Frankie Jr., of all people, is the one who posted it and got his hands on it? Again, coming from these family members that are literally saying that they're going to go after content creators for speaking about a highly publicized case. They have said many, many times over the past almost 4 years now, do not talk about the case. We don't want you talking about Shanann. We don't want you talking about our grandkids. You're not allowed to talk about it. Well, you're wrong, because we're allowed to talk about it. It's called free speech. So they sit there and say, over and over again, we don't want you talking about the case. Stop talking about the case. But then you're going to go and post more information on the case right when it starts to die down. And you guys know that I've said this many times. Whenever the case starts to die down, some new damning information supposedly always comes out, but nothing ever comes from it. Like the 35C, the footage of Shanann coming home. They drop these things in what's called docu-dumps that I like to call. And we'll get into that here in a little bit because I'm going to mention it a couple times in a couple of my videos. But for whatever reason, whenever these cases start to die down and people start to get past and move on to a different case, some new information will always come out. Always. And it's happened several times with the Watts case. And again, and it's coming from that the hypocriticalness of it. And is that a word? Hypocriticalness? Well, it is now. It's so hypocritical of them. Stop talking about the case, but then I'm going to post information, stay away from social media. Okay, Ruseks, Watts, mourn the deaths of your loved ones. If you guys are really victims, if this case is real, let's just hypothetically say it's real. Why are you spending all of your time on social media? And not only that, but in the true crime community where that's all we talk about is the murders. It's simple. Stay off social media. They have a motive behind this, you guys. There is a reason why they're contradicting themselves and not doing what they're saying. They're saying, oh, we're going to stay away from social media. No, we're not. We're going to just go and we're going to cause division and everything. It's just plain, it's just contradiction at its finest. So here's the video, as you guys are seeing, that Frankie posted. I'm going to read to you his reason for posting this video. And not only did Frankie post this, he's posted several other things from the case. You know, telling people that there's no conspiracy, that that FBI and CBI and Frederick Police Department have done everything they can. Everyone who's guilty is behind bars. Nicole Kessinger is not guilty of anything. Nothing to see here. Move on, right? Then why are you continuing to still post shit about your own family members' deaths or murders? Hey, Michelle. Okay, so new release, Nicole Kessinger video with father about Chris Watts' relationship. Frankie goes on to the description to say, other channels are looking for this video. I have it. I am releasing it first since you are all trying to beat each other and getting this out. This is about the murder of my family, and no one else cares more about justice than we do. This does not mean we suspect Nicole Kessinger had any involvement. We are just releasing an unreleased piece of the discovery since it has become an issue with other channels. Hey, Secret Weapon. So you tell people to stop talking about the case, and then you release information that people have been trying to get for years now. Hey, Mark. It's just, it makes no sense, right? And not only that, but you know, he's got 34,000 subscribers. The video it was posted what? I don't even know when it was posted. Just a couple days ago. It's already got over almost 1,500 comments and 25,000 views. Okay? Not only that, but the Ruseks have been complaining about how content creators are using the case to make money and make profit off the deaths of their family. Except how many times have we seen the Ruseks have GoFundMes for these lawyers that they're going to use? They're going to put the money towards lawyers to take down these content creators that are making money and supposedly, you know, like defamation charges against us for talking about Shanann. Even though they left her Facebook account open and it's a highly publicized case. That doesn't matter, right? So, you know, how much money has been donated to this family when we've seen nothing come from lawyers, nothing's happened, causing chaos, as I mentioned before. And, hi, Christy. And now his channel, I'm watching this video, and in the first couple minutes, there's an advertisement. So, I mean, talk about, let me slow down here. Talk about hypocritical again. Like, you're complaining to all of these content creators that they're profiting off the deaths of your family members, but then you're monetizing your channel and your video that now has 25,000 views on it. So aren't you essentially, Frankie Rusek, doing the same thing that, that's okay, Michelle. Yeah, I knew that Plunder was trying to get her hands on it for sure. I honestly didn't think that she would get it. I actually left a comment and I was like, you're not going to get that footage. But, I mean, I guess I was halfway right. It's just interesting that Frankie Rusek, of all people, is the one that got his hands on it. And is now making money and profiting off the deaths, supposedly, right? Let's pretend that it's real, off the deaths of his family. Oh, the chat's working. No, I know the chat's working. I was talking about the chat on the screen, on the actual video. I have it covered now, but it wasn't working before, so. But yeah, so he's making money off the deaths. And then, so let's see, I'm going to show you real quick this contradiction and this hypocrisy. I don't know if you guys have seen this on my community page. I posted this over a week ago. I found this interesting. The Ruseks have been saying this for a long time, how they're going to take down these content creators for talking about the case, and nothing has come from it, right? So I go on to post, the Ruseks just can't stay off social media and move on with their lives, can they? I have been saying this for a very long time now. They're trying to take away even more of our free speech on social media. Well, I hate to break it to you, Frankie, but anyone is allowed to have views and opinions on these highly publicized cases, as well as the victims or people involved. Hey, Matt. If people keep believing these bullshit narratives being fed to us by the government and mainstream media, they're going to wake up one day and their right to free speech, as well as others, will be gone. Time to wake up. Okay? So I see this comment on another channel creator. There need to be laws in place ASAP to protect families of victims and demonetize channels that talk about victims of true crime. This is what worries me. When people are starting to say that laws need to take place after these cases are happening to silence people from having free speech, that is worrisome to me. A lot of people might not care about their free speech, but I sure as hell do. And I want to be able to talk about whatever I want to talk about. I want to talk about these cases that don't add up. But when I see comments like this, again, that's very worrisome. So Frankie Jr. responds, as I said before, they've been very active in the true crime community, causing division, just making, every time they show their faces on social media, you guys, all it does is just make people want to talk about the case more. So they're like, don't talk about the case. Oh, but we're going to say, if you want to know this information, then come to my channel. Total contradiction. It's absolutely ridiculous. So Frankie Jr. goes on to say, that's what we're working on. Very soon, all of these channels will be a thing of the past. They can go spend their hate somewhere else. Okay? Once they stop getting paid for it, it would stop immediately. Universal. So you're absolutely right. Universal is the person who posted the first comment saying that there need to be laws in place ASAP to protect families of victims and demonetize channels that talk about victims of true crime. These true crime cases are very publicized cases. We are allowed to talk about anything we want to. That is our right to having free speech. Do not try to come at us and try to take away our free speech, especially when you have gone and publicized your own family member's case by leaving your daughter's Facebook account open, leaving your sister's Facebook account open to the public, going on Dr. Phil, going on ABC, streaming the funeral live for everyone to see. I mean, talk about publicizing a case. Like, you're doing it a great job of doing that, Ruseks. So again, contradiction at its finest. But this is what people need to be worried about. Some people might think that I'm overreacting. Oh, they're not going to take away free speech. Oh, they will. And they already have been. On several other, different communities, like especially truther communities, you are not allowed to talk about or go against the narrative of these true crime cases, of any of these, tragic events that don't add up. Right? You go against the official narrative on YouTube, you will be walking on eggshells and you will have your channel removed, period. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how small. If you're not careful of what you say, you will trigger those algorithms and they will take you down. And if we get far enough, I'm taking up a little bit of time with this, but it's important to bring it up. I will not play that video that was released. There's more than enough content creators that are playing it. It's going to get everybody worked up on the case again. Everyone's going to try and analyze this newly released video by Frankie Rusek. It's the same video or the same interview that we've heard over and over and over and over and over and over again for almost 4 years now. Nothing else is going to come from watching Nicole Kessinger's interview. But people are going in the true crime community to sit there and analyze it. They're going to analyze her dad. They're going to analyze Kobach. They're going to think that they're going to be able to find some more information. No, you're not. You're not going to find any more information. But this is what happens all the time with these cases. Right when the case starts to die down, sure as shit, here comes some new damning information when really it's not all that new. And this footage should have been released with the original discovery in the first place. Why wasn't it? Why, of all people, is Frankie Rusek Jr. the one that's releasing this footage? And why is he monetizing it after he's trying to take channels down for making money off the case when he's doing the exact same thing? And why is nobody calling him out for it? Because he's a victim. Poor Ruseks. Sorry, I'm not buying it. Like I said, even if it was a real case, being a victim does not make you a saint. Stop playing the victim card 4 years later. Move on with your life. Stay the fuck off social media. I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of everybody sticking up for these family members. They are not victims any longer. Stay off social media. Stop contradicting yourselves. Stop being hypocritical. And I won't have to sit here and talk about your dumbasses. Okay? So moving on from that, that's out of the way. And again, I will not play this video. It's like 3 hours long. It's nothing new. You guys can go find it on Frankie's channel, not promoting his channel at all, or several other channels that are content creators that have that are posting this interview. But I wanted to bring it up just to show the complete hypocrisy from it. And the fact that, again, as I've always said, it always comes out with information and nothing ever comes from it. Oh, you're a huge Dr. Phil fan, babe. What are you talking about? That's all Bowser does is talk. He watches Dr. Phil like every single day. It's like really annoying. I'm like, that's going to warp your brain, babe. You better stay away from Dr. Phil. All right. So moving on. And thank you everyone for being here. And the channels that were talking negative about Shanann, they supported Molly Golightly. Yeah, exactly. She was BFFs with Frankie. I don't trust Molly Golightly further than I can throw her. So, which is not very far. Yeah, I would never put you guys through that again. Especially video footage of it. There's no reason for it. Nothing is going to come from it. Ever. No one's going to solve this case. This, case was not meant to be solved. And even if, like, things added up, you can't solve a case with only, like, half of the evidence. And especially when the evidence that we have, there's so many inconsistencies.
Chris Watts made a number of mistakes before and after.
So the fact that people are actually thinking that they can solve these cases is kind of crazy to me. I'm lying? I'm not lying. I don't lie. Ask Hard Eye. She knows. She knows I'm innocent. She'll stick up for me. Maybe the Ruseks took the video down now for some reason. Ours have the video out there for more funds. I don't know, but the fact that they monetized it is just hypocritical. Super hypocritical. All right, so we're going to continue on now from the next video. And this video is going to go pretty much, and again, forgive me, like I sound totally robotic. Don't mind me. These videos, like this one is over, like, well, pretty much like 3 years old now. So, hey Vincina, good to see you. So, I do sound very robotic. I'm not very good at making videos. Anyways, just listen. The information is important. All the videos I've put out or posted are very important. Again, I've never changed my theory on this case since, I started making videos pretty much, and I will never change my theory or thoughts on this case.
After the murders, which ultimately led to his conviction. Many of the errors could have been avoided with common sense. But what if Chris deliberately made the mistakes because he wanted to get caught? We know that the murders were premeditated, so why did Chris choose the day that Shanann had a doctor's appointment and on Belle and Celeste's first day of school? What if Chris picked that day in order to give Nicole Atkinson the perfect opportunity to call in the welfare check? Why did Chris load the bodies of his family in front of the house and take the risk of someone potentially seeing him? Why didn't he take them out the back where there were no cameras and the houses were unoccupied? If he took them out the back, Nate's security video of Chris loading the bodies of his family into his truck would be non-existent. Chris knew that if he backed into the driveway, that it would trigger Nate's security camera and it would capture him loading the bodies of his family into his truck. Why would he go through the trouble of faking his family's disappearance after he had already potentially incriminated himself? But if you wanted to push a narrative onto the public, what better way to do it than to let them see it for themselves?
Okay, so I want to talk about this part a little bit more. Hey, Sunshine. So sorry, I was just reading your comments. I wanted to like talk about this part a little bit more because there's been theories that have gone around over the years that, well, you know, that people, that no one was taken out of the front of the house. Like everyone, like after, for so long, I've been saying that no bodies were put in that truck. No one was put in that truck, dead or alive. Okay. And I've been saying that the footage is staged from the very beginning. Hey, States of the United. So, you know, people have said, well, you know, maybe it was Chris just staged it and that there were accomplices that took him out the back, right? But that to me makes zero sense. Like, knowing that your neighbor's footage, your neighbor's security camera is pointed right in that direction, he doesn't bother, you know, why would you implicate yourself, walk backwards, dragging what looks like, or pretending to drag a body and implicate yourself like that into the murders if it was just to distract people to go out the back? Why would he make it look like he committed the murders just to have accomplices help him take him out the back? It doesn't make any sense to me. But if you guys think about it, from my theory, if you wanted help from the mainstream media, if you wanted, or from whatever, whoever's, you know, pushing these narratives, you know, you can have the mainstream media come out with a news story and say that this guy killed his wife and his kids, and people would be probably infatuated by it and be very saddened by it. But if you wanted to pull people in from a psychological aspect, what better way to really pull people in, to distract people, to get people to go down rabbit holes, to make them feel more like into the case, than actually showing this guy supposedly, you know, carry the bodies of his dead family members out into his truck. Watching it would be a lot more effective than it would from just hearing it on the news. Psychologically, right? From a psyop standpoint. So, and we're also told that Chris is supposed to have like this 140 IQ, 135, 140 IQ. And it doesn't matter if you have street smarts and you don't, or you're just book smart or whatever. Like, it's common sense that you probably shouldn't, you know, the average person could know that you don't carry the bodies of your family members, you know, at the crack of dawn for all your neighbors to potentially see you doing it. And not only that, but in front of your neighbor's camera, knowing full well exactly where Nate's camera was pointed. And that's why when I first saw this footage, I got the feeling that it was very, very staged to me. Very staged feeling. And it's how convenient that you can't see anything on the camera, but if the mainstream media tells you that that's what's going on in the video footage, then that must be true, when in reality it's really not. It's all circumstantial evidence.
However, the video footage doesn't actually show any physical evidence of Chris loading any bodies into his truck, therefore leaving only circumstantial evidence. There was a similar situation with the Las Vegas shooting. The mainstream media pushed the narrative that Stephen Paddock shot out of his 32nd floor hotel room onto concertgoers. However, there was no physical evidence to back up that claim. With only circumstantial evidence, people began to question the official narrative. It wasn't long until
Okay, so this is another, although they're two totally different scenarios. Yeah, I know he didn't, babe. He definitely did not. But even though they're two totally different, like, tragic events, one was a mass shooting, one was a homicide or familicide case, right? Where he killed his family members, supposedly. I still started seeing all of these same characteristics that I noticed in other orchestrated events, other false flags, other psyops. So just like with the Chris Watts video footage, even though, you know, the mainstream media and law enforcement is telling us that this is what's happening on the video, it doesn't necessarily mean, and I know it might be hard for people to like grasp or understand that, but like, just because we're being told one thing doesn't mean that that's actually what's happening. Like, we don't physically see Chris putting any bodies into that truck. There's no evidence to support that. But just because mainstream media tells us that, and the government or law enforcement, sorry about the train, people just automatically assume that that's what's happening without even thinking logical or thinking, hey, maybe he's not loading anybody into his truck, because we can't really see anything. But when you have the mainstream media who can get this information and this narrative out to so many people, it really, really is an advantage to these, you know, to these orchestrated events and these news stories. When you have the media on your side, it's a huge plus in their favor. So, and again, just because they're telling us one thing doesn't mean that's what's really happening. But people will just believe it because the mainstream media said it. When in reality, they should be questioning and going, hey, like, we don't see any bodies going into that truck. I mean, you're telling us that, but that doesn't mean, you know, I'm just not seeing it. Same thing with Stephen Paddock. There was no cameras to show that he was actually the person shooting out of the window. There was no ballistics, no nothing, all lack of evidence. Hey, Moel. So there's just not enough evidence to prove what these narratives, the official narratives, are saying. But people will just believe it, even though it's only circumstantial evidence, because the mainstream media says it. Because the mainstream media says it's true. Hey, Callie.
The crime scene photos of Stephen Paddock's deceased body in the hotel room were intentionally leaked in an attempt to further push the official narrative. Many have questioned whether or not Chris actually loaded the bodies of his family into his truck on his own. Dead weight is extremely difficult to lift, and Shanann being pregnant would have made it even more difficult, if not impossible. Chris also never appears to be tired, struggling, or out of breath. Although it does appear that Chris is loading the bodies of his family, the physical evidence just isn't there. Chris disposed of the bodies at an oil site owned by the company he worked for. Had he not confessed, that would have been the first place that investigators would have looked. You have to wonder what Chris was thinking when he left behind 6 pieces of evidence. But what if he deliberately left them?
Hey, Pet, I did not know that. I was going to try and say your entire name, but I know that I would probably just botch it right now since I can't even speak well during the stream as it is. But I did not know that. That's very interesting. So, you know, it's, again, here comes like with that whole like 130 IQ. Like, this guy made he did every single thing wrong that you could do possibly when committing a murder. You know, but and it seems so unrealistic, but people just seem to believe it. Like, you're telling me that he's gonna, like, he thought about this through. It was premeditated, and, you know, he takes the time to kill his entire family, takes him to his place of work, knowing full well that his GPS on his truck, he has GPS on his truck, and then that's gonna be the first place that law enforcement looks. And not only does he do that, but he buries her in Shanann in a shallow grave. He leaves a plastic bag, a grave, and the rake head at the rake head at the grave, sticking out of the grave, as if, like, it's a marker. Like, hey, here she is. You know, a rake head piece, plastic bag number 2, and the bed sheet. Like, I can see maybe you're in a hurry, you forget the rake or something, you're trying to, like, you know, but then you leave like 2 plastic bags and the bed sheet and the rake. And how did the rake handle even break? Like, what was he doing with that? Like, that ground is not that hard, right? Unless it's like really old rickety rake. Either way, you know, I try to give the benefit of the doubt and say maybe leave 1, maybe 2 items, but to leave multiple items like that, it's very staged, and it's almost like, hey, Jenny. It's like, hey, nobody else committed this crime. It's hard for me to kind of explain this, but it's like, it gives, like, it just makes the narrative pretty much flow. Like, everything is so convenient in this case. It's like, how convenient that Chris just happened to, or, Shanann just happened to go out of town for 6 weeks and to give Chris and Nicole the opportunity to have this affair. And how convenient that, he just happened to park his truck in front of his neighbor's camera, and it just happened to catch everything for the whole world to see, to be released to us, so we could see it all happening and unfolding, and all the body cam footage, right? And everything's recorded, everyone's personal information and names are released. It's like a movie, like a real life movie right in front of our eyes, right? And if it seems like a movie, it's probably because it is. Just because it's on body cam footage, it doesn't make it real. Like when you go and you watch a cop show on TV, and they have the timestamp that says the Axum or whatever on it. Like, does that necessarily mean it's real? No, it's a TV show. But people automatically believe that if it's coming from the government or law enforcement or the mainstream media, it must be real. But it doesn't have to be. And that's, I'm not going to get into the whole Smith Modernization Act again, but that's why they can legally do it. They can legally lie to us. They can make up any news story they want. It doesn't matter how big or how small, they can legally do it. So they can put some cops on some body cam footage to push multiple agendas onto the public. Legally. Like, I can't stress that enough. They can legally do it with no repercussions in order to push agendas and multiple motives against us, the public. So, when he's making all these mistakes, he's, how convenient that, he did it when Shanann wasn't feeling well and N.A. was worried about her friend, and it was only like a couple hours after. But how convenient, hey Gladys, how convenient that it was just, that all of this just unfolded in just a couple of months. It's too convenient. Too coincidental. Like, how many times do things have to, be so convenient to where it's not coincidental anymore?
There, simply because he was following the narrative.
The home, when law enforcement arrived, was locked up tight from the inside. The only way that the law enforcement could get in was getting Mr. Watts there with a garage door opener to let law enforcement in. There was no way anyone was going to get into that house as a stranger, do something to that family, and get back out and leave the house locked up in that manner. I think that was probably the most compelling thing that struck law enforcement almost immediately.
If there were multiple ways Shanann could have left the house, it would open up the possibility that someone else may have been responsible for their disappearance, therefore taking the focus away from Chris and the official narrative.
So here again, how convenient is it that DA Rourke is saying that everything was locked up, there's no way that there could be an intruder, there's no possibility of anybody else being involved. It really just pushes the narrative super fast for them. Like, there's these little tactics that they use. Like, it's like, oh, we didn't have to do any forensic analysis of the house because, technically, like, yeah, Shanann was supposed to be murdered there, but then, like, we have a crime scene number 2, so that's like the secondary crime scene. Like, we don't actually have like a real crime scene ever, and that makes it really convenient for this narrative when they don't have to send in actual forensics, when there's no weapon, there's no blood, there's no there's no fight. How convenient that Shanann didn't fight off her attacker when she's supposed to be this tough woman, right? It's very, very easy for them to push the narrative forward when we don't even have an official crime scene. They didn't even tape it off. It's just, and everything moves so quickly. And then it was just like open and shut within a couple months. Hey, Crystal.
When investigators started to interrogate him, Chris never asked for a lawyer. He also agreed to take a polygraph test even though he knew he would fail. Some believe that he is so narcissistic that he thought he could actually take the test and pass. But what if it didn't have anything to do with being narcissistic?
Okay, so has there been times where murderers have, or they've committed murder, suspects, and they don't ask for a lawyer? Yeah, there's really stupid people out there. You always ask for a lawyer. Doesn't matter what. There's been times where they haven't asked for a lawyer. They've confessed, They took a polygraph test when they thought that they could pass because they are narcissistic or whatever. So I'm not saying that never happens. I'm not saying, oh, since Chris didn't ask for a lawyer, that means that the whole case is fake. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, when stuff keeps happening like this, where it's just everything just leads right to Chris, and it's so convenient for law enforcement to just, and for the narrative to be pushed in their direction that they want it to go, how many times does that need to happen for it not to be coincidental anymore and to where something else is going on here?
Took a plea deal in order to avoid the death penalty and waived his right to a fair trial. A trial would likely bring out more information that contradicts the official narrative. Quickly closing the case is the best way to avoid anyone questioning any inconsistencies. Many believe Nicole Kessinger.
Now, does it mean necessarily just because there's not a trial that means it's a psyop or that it's fake or that it's a hoax? No. But, it depends on the psyop. It depends on the orchestrated event. They might need to have a stage trial, in order to push whatever agendas that they're pushing. But they didn't have to do this for the Chris Watts case, for whatever reason. But they didn't have to go through a trial. They could have him confess, and people would just believe the entire narrative, even if it didn't make sense. It's just everything moves so quickly. They didn't bother to investigate Nicole Kessinger, even though she should have been the first person of interest in the case. And they do, babe. They definitely, it's like, oh, he's a narcissist. No, maybe he's just a really bad actor. Hey, Shan.
Played a much bigger role in the murders. However, the reason she was never investigated, why she has never been charged, and most likely will never be charged, is because the official narrative being fed over and over to the public is that Chris Watts killed his family. Why do you think Nicole Kessinger was hardly mentioned in any of the mainstream media documentaries? And the few times she was made out to look like a hero. The predictive programming used in the television show American...
Yeah, Shan. I deranged everybody. There was a live stream I had where there was something funky happened. So I'm just remodding people. I had to remove everybody to fix the issue. So that's why. Nothing personal. I love you, Shan. So I'm just remodding people as I go along. That's all. So, as just mentioned in the video, there's so many inconsistencies with Nicole Kessinger, yet she was never investigated. Why? Right? It's like when a murder suspect or whatever, when a suspect in a murder case confesses, does that mean that law enforcement just goes, oh, well, he confessed. He must be the only one involved. Well, just move along. We got our man, right? No. You investigate everybody. You investigate Nicole Kessinger, the mistress, for sure. You do whatever you have to take to rule her out. You just don't go, oh, we didn't get that far in our investigation because Christopher Watts confessed. Right? That's not real life. Hey, Jenny. Good to see you. So it's just not real life. You have to rule out everybody as a suspect. And the fact that like DA Rourke is admitting that and saying, oh, we didn't get that far in our investigation to research that or to see what was going on with that because Chris Watts confessed is actually kind of a slap in the face. It's like, what do you mean? Like, you're supposed to investigate everyone. If Nicole Atkinson, even if she's supposed to be the hero and she's the one that called 911, it doesn't matter. Like, if she has inconsistencies in her statements and her interviews and the stuff's not adding up with her the location on her phone or whatever, like, that needs to be investigated. None of that was done in this case. But they don't have to do all that to convince the majority of people that it's real. So it's sloppy. So it makes it look like there's a cover-up from law enforcement. It makes law enforcement look like they're incompetent. They're not incompetent. They know very full well what they're doing, okay? And they use little tactics like this and skipping all this stuff in the narrative. Like, nothing was done by the books. Chris didn't have to give a factual basis for the crimes he committed. He just confessed after 2 days, after he took all the time. It's so very convenient, and it just moves the narrative right along for these orchestrated events. It's just very all convenient.
Horror story prior to the murders is overwhelming and started as far back as season 1, which aired in 2011. This means that someone had foreknowledge that these murders were going to happen, and ultimately showed us what would later become a real-life American horror story for the whole world to see. Why would they do all this? Ole Damengard, an expert on false flags, psyops, and conspiracy theories, explains it best.
They secretly create an alleged terror attack or alleged mass shooting, alleged virus attack, alleged financial crash, something like that. Right. They create the problem. The reason they create that is to get us into an emotional reaction. They don't want us to think, they just want to get us emotional. So they freak us out so that we will be, oh my God, this is awful. We don't think, we just react. There's a difference between reacting and acting. Acting is when you're in balance and harmony and you make a well thought through decision and then you act. Reaction is just you go, oh my God, and that, but they don't want you to think. So it's the reaction they want, and emotional. So they aim at women and children to get the emotions going.
Yeah.
So see the problem to get the reaction. That's problem, reaction. Oh my God, help us. That's the reaction they want. And then we turn towards the few, to the ones that we think are there to protect us, not understanding that it's actually them who have created the problem, and say, please help us, we need protection. And they will then say, well, the only way we can protect you is by, and boom, in comes the solution. Right. Problem, solution.
Okay, so that's that Hegelian dialectic that I talk about all the time on here, is that problem, reaction, solution. They create a tragic event like a mass shooting, a terrorist attack. It doesn't matter what it is, how big or how small. They do it. They have the help from the mainstream media to get that narrative out there to as many people as possible. We then have a fear-based reaction. We turn to them for a solution. Please stop all the kids getting killed in the schools. Take away guns. Take away our rights. Do whatever you have to do to stop these people, these innocent people, from dying, right? And it doesn't have to just be people dying. They can be pushing any sort of agenda or have multiple motives for why they do these events. But they're gonna, each one is gonna have different motives depending on that specific event. They're gonna cater to that specific event depending on what it is. So, and I highly recommend you go check out Ole Damengard. He's an expert who I am not on these things, but I have learned a lot over the years from him, and he is one of the reasons why I was able to spot this Watts case for what it really was. He's one of the reasons why I wasn't affected by this case emotionally, why I'm not in turmoil over it, why I can't why I'm not like racking my brain and like trying to figure out what happened in the case. Like I'm still talking about the case because I'm trying to open up like the truth about the case to everybody, not because I'm trying to figure out if Nicole Kessinger's guilty or if there's other people involved, or if if it's just Chris Watts that did the murders. That's not why I'm still talking about it. I know what happened. I don't have all the answers as to why it was done, but I do know that it was orchestrated to push multiple agendas onto the public. So this part of the video, I'm just going to read these because there's a couple that are long and I didn't have the screen up long enough to kind of read it, so you'd have to pause it. So what Ole was just talking about there again is that Hegelian dialectic, the problem, reaction, solution. So they want people, one of the motives, in my opinion, behind this case is they want especially women and children, they want them to think that if someone like Chris Watts, who never had any prior signs of abuse or violence, or he was just the all around, how many times did we hear from everybody that was interviewed how great Chris was? Perfect husband, great father, great employee, always on time, had all these friends, nothing bad to say about the guy. But then all of a sudden he up and murders his entire family for what? Like, normally there's a reason why people commit crimes, why people do terrible things to people, whether it be psychological, like mental health, whether it be revenge, whatever the case. Usually there's a motive or some sort of explanation behind it, but they never really did with this case give us a motive, a legitimate motive as to why Chris did what he did. Now, they did throw in like the mistress, of course. They threw in the little things like the debt and all the hospital bills and, you know, their marriage is crumbling and stuff like that. But if they didn't throw in those tiny little motives, this case would not be believable. This narrative, no one would believe this narrative. It's like, how could Chris, who had, nobody had anything bad to say about the guy, how could he just up and murder his entire family? So they want women, especially, to be in fear. It's all about fear for the majority of these cases. The best way to control people is with fear. So, hey, Nicole. So they want women, mainly, I mean, it could work for men too, but they want you to think that if someone like Chris Watts can up and murder his entire family, then what's stopping your significant other or your husband or even a close family member from doing the same exact thing to you one day? They want us to constantly be in fear all the time. So these are a couple comments that I found. Like, there's thousands and thousands of these comments of women, you know, especially after the case, talking about how they have trust issues with their significant others, which just proves my point that that fear aspect of it is working from this case. So this person puts, this case gives me trust issues.
This case has brought fear and panic into women all over the world who feel they can no longer trust their husband or significant other to protect their family.
This one says, this case hurts my heart. It brings me to tears reading his own description of how exactly he killed the girls, how they slept and held each other in the backseat of the car on the way to the murder site and carried their blankets, and the littlest had a stuffed animal. Their mom's body was at their feet in the car. The youngest was killed first. The older girl knew what was happening and begged her dad to stop, and she fought for her life as it happened. Those girls had such sweet smiles and such an innocent and trusting love for their father. My little girls are 2 and 4. I can't even stand the idea of them going through something like that. Now I just want to hold them forever. So do you see how these cases are really affecting women out there? Like, they're actually thinking in their head, hey, Miss Mensa, that their significant other might, it doesn't matter how great of a husband he is. It doesn't matter, but it's affecting women out there. It's pulling at heartstrings, one, and it's bringing that fear-based reaction into people. If someone like Chris can do it, then what's stopping my husband or my boyfriend or even my close family member from doing the exact same thing? Even if they show no prior signs of violence, no mental history, nothing. It is affecting so many people by these cases, psychologically.
If women can no longer trust their husband or significant other to protect their family, then who can they trust?
This one says, how? How do you take someone's life? How do you take a kid's life? Your own children's life, and sleep at night? I'm so horrified. Another person goes on to say, the scariest part of all this is I truly believe her when she said how amazing he was to her. I really believe he was. So what the fuck happened? It scares me to know somebody can just do this with no warning. You can't trust anyone. I bet he's the last person anybody ever expected to harm another, let alone his wife and babies. I think this is why we've gone down the rabbit hole with this story. It just makes no sense. That's exactly what they want this case to do. Make no sense. It's not supposed to make sense, you guys. It's not. Yes, it goes, the narrative is very convenient. Meets the girlfriend, wife goes out of town, they start their affair, she comes back in, now the wife's dead, you know, or whatever. The friend calls in the welfare check. How convenient. Only a couple hours later, now she's dead, now the kids are dead. You know, he he goes in, doesn't take a polygraph test. How convenient. Doesn't hire a lawyer. Confesses after only 4 hours of interrogation, if that's what you want to call it. And then, you know, no trial. How convenient for them. No inconsistencies can come out now in the case. They don't have to go through all that trouble to have a trial when you can just do all this with the narrative and convince the majority of people that it's real, that it actually happened. So just by these comments, I mean, you know, she's saying how scary it is. I can't trust it. Like, you can't trust anyone. They really, yeah, playing off of emotions. Definitely, babe. So it's working. And it supports my theory into the whole fear-based aspect of it. And the psychological. And that's just one psychological aspect portion of this case. But fear being a main motive behind it. Don't trust anyone. Don't even trust the ones that you know, your husband that you married to protect your family. You can't trust them. If Chris Watts can do this, then hell, like, anybody can do this to you, right? And this is just a couple examples. There's like thousands and thousands of comments that I've read of just over the 4 years of how scared these women are that have followed this case, actually believing that their husband can do this at the drop of the hat, or their significant other, or anybody close to them. Hey, Molson, man. Yeah, and they already had the drone footage. Exactly, Kelly. So if you are not familiar with Ole Damengard, I highly recommend that you look up some of his videos. It will be difficult to find videos of him on YouTube. He has been, his channel removed from YouTube. He is banned on YouTube. So it's pretty quick that they take his videos down. Now you can find him on BitChute if you really search for him, and other platforms. He is, again, someone that I've learned a lot of this information from, that I'm now, you know, relaying to you guys. It's super important that you see that there's other people talking about these things that I'm talking about, and especially people that know a lot more about it than I do, that they're actually experts on these events. Like, he leans more towards the terrorist attacks and the school shootings and stuff like that, and the mass shootings, but they still all fall into the same category, regardless if it's in the true crime or if it's political, whatever. Okay, so the next video is going to be another one of these inconsistencies videos that I put out. Again, all these videos are, you know, in my opinion, super important, even though they're old.
The first set of photos that were released in the discovery of Chris and Kessinger were grainy and made the quality of the images terrible. 7 months later, the same pictures were released, but this time the quality of the images were exceptional. Why would someone deliberately downgrade the quality of the images? There were, however, new images of Chris and Kessinger from the Great Sand Dunes, and what appears to be images that Kessinger sent to Chris. However, these images were not released until a well-known channel sent in a core request for the following: the 200 pages redacted from the discovery, interviews of key players such as Jamie Watts, Cindy Watts, and Kessinger's friend Jim, and any additional video footage. All of the information requested from the channel was denied, and the only files sent were better quality duplicates and irrelevant images of Kessinger. Why did it take a core request to get images that should have been released with the discovery in the first place? Many people started to question the existence of the Vivint doorbell footage of Shanann arriving home from her trip to Arizona. Of course, it would be HLN who would obtain the footage and subsequently release it to the public. Why did it take people questioning the video's existence for it to be released? We know from the Vivint doorbell footage that Nicole Atkinson pulled into the driveway when she dropped off Shanann. So why didn't Nate's camera pick up Nicole's car pulling in or out of the driveway? Why did Detective Baumhover state in his report that he observed Shanann walk from the street to her front door? Why does Detective Baumhover's statement not match up with the video footage we see? How could he mistake Shanann coming from the street and not the driveway?
Okay, so my internet's being super slow right now, and now the videos aren't even matching up. So I'm probably going to have to end this live stream. I don't know what to do until I get a newer computer. It's not matching up with... I don't know what's going on. So, unfortunately, yeah, I'm going to have to end it. I mean, I can't play any more videos, and I know that the chat is super delayed. I had my headphones in, and it's like a 30-second delay. I don't know what to do. I just might have to stop doing these in prime time or something. But I hate to cut it so short, but that's gonna like ruin the entire point of me playing these videos. If they don't match up, it's gonna make it difficult for you guys to follow. Yeah, when that footage should have been released to the public in the first place. And that's what I was getting into in this video is, you know, they cherry pick the stuff that they want to send us and what they want to show us. And why 4 years, almost 4 years later? And why Frankie Jr.? And the reason why I believe that they do it, I don't know the exact reason. It's only speculation. All I know is that they do this every single time with these cases. They, right when the case starts to die down, new information will come out and nothing will ever come from it. And all it does is get people to talk about the case again, get people all worked up, think that they're going to find new information and to distract or for whatever reason. Again, I don't know, but I see it all the time. Just like with the 35C, that came up when the case started to die down. Nothing came from it. It just happens all the time. Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry I have to end it, but I don't know. It's just, my computer's so slow. I should probably just stop streaming until I get a new computer because it's, it makes it very difficult to do what I'm trying to do, so. But we'll try this again, probably in the next couple of days or whatever. So I appreciate everyone for being here. And I appreciate you guys' support always. And I'll see you guys next time.